last week. If my days are right, I think it was a week ago Tuesday, a bond package for Pima Community College as they prepare to train people for the new industries that are coming, particularly to southern Arizona, and that would be Caterpillar and Raytheon, are gearing up substantially right here in our backyard, so not everything is going north of the hill into Maricopa County. There's tremendous growth. We have worked on the border strike force, and that is going very well, and you may have just seen a press release on it, on the amount of fentanyl that was picked up. That's huge. You will hear a lot of things in the next hour and a half. We ask you to stay after if something isn't clarified, and we would be more than happy to answer your questions.
Brett Roberts.
Well, they saved the best for last, I guess. My name is Brett Roberts. I am currently, does anybody here know what a constable is? I'm currently the constable for the Maricopa-Stanfield precinct up in Pinal County. So currently I am serving a portion of the legislative district 11, and I'm looking to serve a larger portion of it. I want to continue serving. I think it's important to serve your community, and the opportunity arose when Senator Smith chose to run for Congress, and so that opened up a hole in the legislature, and I jumped at that opportunity to run because, like I said, it is important to serve your community. And you're going to hear some contrast up here today between the left and the right, coincidentally how it got placed, but one of the contrasts that I like to point out is on our side of the aisle, we're up here, we're trying to retain as much money in your pocket so you can decide how you want to spend it. It's a little bit different on the other side of the aisle when you look at different issues and things of that nature. And that's one of the reasons, the major reasons that I'm running. I believe we're doing something right in the state of Arizona. There are those that don't agree with me, but we've had over 300 corporations move into or expand in the state of Arizona in the last 4 years. We have people moving to Arizona, approximately 200 per day. We're doing something correct. We are ranked 5th in the nation as far as economic development. And these are important things. If we want to stay on this track, we need to make sure that we have people out there that support those ideologies that will continue to promote economic growth and things of that nature. Again, my name is Brett Roberts. I'm running for the House of Representatives, and I'm asking for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brett. Okay, moving on to the questions. I do want to announce that 2 of the candidates agreed to attend if they had up to 3 minutes to answer each question. So all candidates will be given that same amount of time. However, please be as brief and concise as possible so we can get through the questions. Show respect for the audience by answering the questions directly and not repeat your talking points. All questions will be asked of every candidate in rotating and varied order. And once again, the first question will begin with Hollis Lyon, and the first question is, only 2 more states are needed to ratify a federal equal rights amendment. Would you support passage of the Equal Rights Amendment?
Yes. I mean, really, the Equal Rights Amendment is a long way overdue, and the only people that I've ever heard argue against it have said, well, women already have equal rights, so we really don't need to pass that amendment. And that is just simply not true. Although when I was younger, when I first got in the Air Force, women made about 57, 58 cents on the dollar for the same job that men were doing. We're up to maybe 70 cents. Some people even say a little under 80, but we're still way under, and that's just pay. Look at what's been happening this week in the Judiciary Committee. Look what's been happening. And I'm not saying that that's an equal rights thing, but we all have to use that. I've used it as a lesson to examine how I look at women versus men and how our words are accepted, how our honor is honored, so to speak, that kind of words. Do you believe, do you not believe, based on the sex of the person saying it? And I think we need to elevate all of that up so we respect everyone equally. And we know that if we do that, even by law, even if we did it by law, it will take 2 or 3 generations for that respect to actually filter into our culture. At least, and that's if we're lucky. So yeah, I think we need to pass the ERA. We need to get that 20 or 40-year process started, and so that everyone is respected equally. I don't care what sex they are.
Please stay seated when you answer the questions. It'll save time. It's fine for your opening and closing comments, but I would rather you stay seated to answer. Same question, round at you.
So the question is begged, why do we need an equal rights amendment? Why did it take generations for women to get the right to vote? And Arizona, by the way, was the first state to ratify that in the United States. Why is that? Why is that such a generational obstacle that we are still looking at? It's really mind-boggling and shouldn't be there. So, if for no other reason than a symbolic lesson to young men and women that there is no reason that we should not have equal human rights. Not any obstacle based on gender or any other reason, really. Fair pay, equal pay for the same work, the same voice in government, the same voice in your home, the same voice in community activities. There is no reason to not have equal rights, equal playing field, equal opportunity. I definitely support the Equal Rights Amendment. I cannot understand any reason to not support that. Thank you.
Vince Leach.
Thank you. So let me back up. We had the opportunity 2 times on the floor of the House to have this come out this past year. And so maybe some history is due here, and please bear with me. The Equal Rights Amendment started the movement in the 70s. 1979 was the time frame for it to be completed by. It was not completed for lack of number of states. I don't think we're here to argue who the states were or why. The Congress, along with President Jimmy Carter, extended it to 1982. During that 3-year extension, there were 5 states that backed out, and there seems to be some legal opinion on whether or not you could back out once you voted for it. The long and short of it, that is a moot point, whether or not you can back out. The long and short of it is that the Equal Rights Amendment that was written, that everyone wants us to vote on, has expired, and expired in 1982. Now, going forward, if someone wants to bring forward an Equal Rights Amendment in today's language, in today's world, absolutely, I will take a look at it. But to put an amendment up on the board that is expired, and all the issues that may have transpired, or all the laws that may have transpired, I am not going to vote for something that expired in 1982. As I said, you bring another one forward, I'll certainly give it the same due diligence that I give every bill that comes before me, and that is to do my due diligence, make an opinion, go out to several people, several groups, and get the feel of the constituents of LD11 and make the correct decision. Let me say again, the Equal Rights Amendment that was up for vote, and I think maybe being referred to, expired in 1982. We argued this on the floor extensively, hours worth. And so I thank you for the question.
Brett Roberts.
So my answer is going to be very similar to Vince's in the fact that if you have something that you're asking me to offer an opinion on, or if I would favor something or vote for in that manner, I would need to have something to look at as far as what the language is going to be. It's kind of hard to offer an opinion on something that you don't have any current language on. As been stated, you know, the current stuff is way past outdated. So, you know, in order to offer an opinion in support of it, I'd have to be able to look at exactly what we're talking about in order to be able to either support or not support. I would definitely, I wholeheartedly agree that we should have equal rights. I have no issue with that, but what I do have an issue with is I can't offer an opinion or support something that doesn't have current legal wording in order to take into consideration. I think I would be doing a disjustice to my constituents to offer something before I knew exactly what I was saying that I could support. That's pretty much where I stand on that.
Okay. The next question will start with Ralph Atchu. For the 2018 fiscal year, only 47% of statewide taxes from the Highway User Revenue Fund were returned to cities and counties. Pima County only received 6.9%. What do you intend to do to secure more highway funds for our local roads?
That's a great question, because what it shows is a consistent pattern by the Republican-controlled state legislature to not only misuse and strip counties of their highway user funds, but other funds as well, by abdicating funding for things that the state has in the past done. So Pinell County, for example, the supervisor, chair of the Board of Supervisors, told us at a meeting just a few weeks ago that some $28 million was taken out of the Pinell County budget by the state legislature to use for other things, balancing the budget at the state level. So the Highway User Fund is money that should be going back to the counties to use for road repair, new road construction, things like that. So by taking that money and only returning 47%, that's why you've got 53% of the roads in Pima County that need repair. That's why you've got tires that are going flat. That's why you've got stones going through windshields. That's why you need road repair taken care of in the right way. We have a state legislature that is misusing funds, and this is a highlight of that problem. So what I would do is return funds to the counties and cities that should be there. City council members across the board, when I ask them, what is the biggest problem you see with the current state legislature, and what would you like to see fixed, it is this exact problem. They told me that they are tired of the state taking money that should be used by counties, should be used by cities, and taking it up to the state, used to give tax credits, tax loopholes, tax cuts, rather than being invested in the communities across the state.
Same question for Vince Leach.
Thank you. So again, just a little bit more on highway use on the HERF funds. First of all, there is a breakdown within how the funds are constitutionally, and some of those funds have been and always in the good times before the Great Recession. Most of that money that came in through HERF funds was returned. Then we ran into a crisis in the prison, and in the Constitution, you can check this, in the Constitution, there is a provision to pay DPS people with HERF funds. We did, full disclosure, during the tough times when we were short $3 billion in our budget, in a major recession, when we sold our Capitol buildings, we rolled over a lot of funds, not only HERF funds. But I will tell you this, all the HERF funds in the last budget that we passed, that we signed on or about May 5th, have been restored. In fact, I can provide you a letter from the County Supervisors Association that we're very happy with it. Regarding Pima County, in the last 8 years, we have supplied Pima County $500 million worth of HERF funds. And my question is where did that go? Where did that go? I've asked that of several groups like this and business groups, and I still haven't got an answer. We know that the majority of that money went to overhead and personnel and did not go into blacktop filling potholes. And that's why you have a problem. It's interesting enough when you drive in Oro Valley or you drive in Marana, you don't have that problem. But you sure know when you're crossing over from Oro Valley into Marana, don't you? And you're going through county. Why is that? Why is that? Does anybody ask that question? There's got to be a reason. And I don't think answering that question that I just asked is in the scope of this particular question, but I think it bears responsibility from those in the county that are not seeing her funds spent responsibly by the Board of Supervisors to ask questions and saying, why aren't you putting money into the roads? Why are you going to go, and now they want to go out for another bond fund. Why are you taking 20-year bond issues to do a 10-year road repair? It doesn't make sense. It absolutely doesn't make sense. We have restored all of our funds. We're putting money back in that we took. We were about halfway there last year. Our budget, once again, our economy is going extremely well. Right now, our general fund is $85 million ahead of plan. More of that money is going to go to other areas. And she's getting ready to wave the red stick at me, so I am done. Thank you.
Brett Roberts.
So roads, it was a wide awakening for me when about a year and a half ago I announced that I was going to run for this position because, I'll be honest, that I didn't make it down to Pima County very often. And so when I started driving down here on a very frequent basis, sometimes 3-4 times a week, I noticed there was a huge difference in roads between Pinal County and Pima County. And I started to wonder why. To my understanding at this point, the HERF funds have been restored. And so what I can see is, Vince just brought up that they're going to be going for another RTA down here for more funds for roads. And I don't understand what they've been doing with the funds that they've had already, because my understanding there was already a half-cent sales tax down here for roads, and they're asking for another one for roads. So, where's the money been being spent? Why, and the county that's right next door, the one that I live in, the roads are, they're better. They're not, like glamorous or anything like that, but they are a lot better. So, I tend to shy away from blaming everything on the legislature, because it seems like what I continuously hear at this point is every problem that we have in the state of Arizona is the legislature's fault. And I don't agree with that, because we have governments, we have state government, we have county government, we have city government, and those responsibilities lie elsewhere as well. I don't believe this is necessarily only a legislative issue. I think that there is also responsibilities that lie at the county level in particular, and most likely has a lot to do with the county manager in Pima County. And I think there's a lot of people that would agree with that statement. Thank you.
Holly Wine.
Well, I have a couple of things to say about all of this. Number one, here we are 9 years later after recession, almost 10, and finally her funding gets restored. Oh, by the way, coincidentally, in an election year, that seems to me like a little bit too much of a coincidence. Since the recession, it's been between 40% and 60 to 80% has been taken out of the HERF funding that has gone to the different counties and cities. Those counties and cities have turned right around and raised property taxes. They've tried to raise, the school districts have had to raise property taxes and float bond issues, etc., so that they could fund themselves. There are all kinds of what we call political subdivisions trying to raise taxes to make up for the fact that a lot of things aren't getting funded, including the roads. So why is that? Well, I think Representative Leach's response is demonstrable, in that his whole attitude is very adversarial. Why are the counties doing this? Where's the money going? Why can't anybody tell me? Well, he's been in the legislature for 4 years now. Why doesn't anybody talk to him? I mean, if he's asking that question and he's a state legislator, why isn't somebody answering it for him? I'll tell you why. Because if somebody came at me like that with a question, I sure wouldn't want to answer it. I would recoil and say, well, let's go in our boxes and let's figure out how to talk to each other more formally, because I don't want to answer this informally. I don't think that's the way the state ought to be treating the counties and the cities. Pinal County passed two tax increases just to pay for the roads. So, Mr. Roberts says our roads are just fine, but Pinal County, the people who are overtaxed, they've been taxed and taxed and taxed, and they hate the roads, were actually willing to vote to raise their taxes to fix the roads. What does that tell you about Pinal County's roads? They're not a whole lot better either. So we need to start funding the roads in the whole state, not only to fix the ones that we have, but we need to actually develop better roads and better road systems. And we can do that if we finally get the money.
Vince Lee will answer first on the next question. Do you think it is possible for voters to make informed decisions when so much of the big money supporting candidates and propositions comes from undisclosed sources?
Yes. You're doing it right now. You're doing it right now as you see the plethora of Prop 1, vote no on Prop 127 signs all over. They're all over Pima County. They're all over Pinal County. Just now, just before we started, there was somebody that came up and wanted to know even more about 127. 127 is the energy prop. We've been talking about that, the pros and cons of that later. But that is funded wholly by outside influence through a gentleman that's funding money through a organization called NextGen. You may have read about them in the newspaper. They're doing many things, but there are avenues to go to. You can go to TRICO. Many of you are in the TRICO district. You can go to TEP. If you are in the APS district, if you live north of here, you can find out. And I'm using this as an example, so you can avail yourself. The other thing is that by now you should have all received a voter information packet from the Secretary of State that has, and it's long. It's boringly long. I'm seeing this lady shaking her head. I agree with you. It's long, but it does have the detail, not only of it has the entire detail of the ballot proposition that you will be looking at, so that when you get your ballot, you'll have a whole lot more information. It gives the legislative analysis, which is bipartisan. The Legislative Council is a bipartisan group serving both Democrats and Republicans. They meet and they form that language that goes on there. If any proposition has a fiscal note to it, or fiscal change, the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, which is also nonpartisan, serves both the House, the Senate, and Democrats and Republicans, will put a note in there, and then you'll have pages and pages and pages of people that wrote in and for and against. So that information is available, and you can avail yourself to that. Now, it does bring up another question that maybe will come up later. Do we in Arizona want people from Washington, D.C., or California, or Texas, or any other place to come in and put propositions on the ballot? That's a whole different question.